Hello and welcome to the Society with Fatma Shaheen at PTV World. In a world where we do see that innovation and technology has completely revitalized, rather revamped everything, what is important to understand is also the fact that how has technology in turn also impacted businesses, startups and entrepreneurs per se. And this is something upon which we'll be shedding light during the course of today's conversation. According to this recent report of the World Economic Forum, by 2030 it is said that over 65% of children who are actually entering primary school today, they will be completely working in jobs which don't even exist today. So considering that, technology has completely redefined the entrepreneurial landscape, we then need to understand that how precisely has it done so. And this is something upon which we'll be delving upon during the course of today's conversation. Also, we'll be talking about why is it so important for us to actually ensure that when it comes to having the right entrepreneurial opportunities in place in this regard, women and vulnerable groups, they are given their due priority. We'll also be talking about the fact that yes, whereas of course at one end we do see that entrepreneurship is something which definitely contributes towards the economy of the country, what we cannot ignore is also the fact that it can in its own self also be that catalyst for social change. Last but not the least, we'll also be talking about the need for there to be the requisite and relevant, of course, supportive government policies so as to generally promote entrepreneurship in the Pakistani society. That too, along with having the right infrastructure in place and of course collaborative arrangements between the private and the public sector. All of this today, that too with a very diverse panel. Let me introduce you to my today's panel. My first panelist for today's show is Ali Akbar Saab, who is the CEO of PSTF. Assalamu alaikum ji and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Alongside him, I have Ms. Amaviya Sajjad, who's an analyst. Assalamu alaikum ji and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And via Zoom link, we'll be joined by Ms. Emily Dada, who is the chairperson of Women Economic Reforms Standing Committee. Assalamu alaikum ji and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for taking me.
To start the conversation with you, sir, in an era which is driven not only by technology but also by innovation, we then need to understand at a very basic level that what is it that PSTF, that is the Punjab Skill Development Fund, is actually doing, not only to empower young people in the province but also to ensure that they have the right and the requisite skills so as to make themselves more employable.
Presently, if you see that in the labor force statistics, you will find out that around more than 2 million youth all joins the labor force each year. And these 2 million youth is highly unskilled and they don't know what to do in the world.
Right.
First is we need to tell them the importance of the skills. And not only the skills, that if they want to go into the as an entrepreneur, what they need to know.
Right.
So these are the two things on which Punjab Skill Development Fund focus.
Right.
Our focus is poor and vulnerable population of Punjab, and now we have expanded into the Sindh also. Primarily, we provide the basic skills of 3 months and 6 months to the poor and vulnerable population.
Sir, just one question here. You say that you are basically providing skills to the poor and the vulnerable. How exactly is poor and vulnerable defined then? And who are those people who would fall within this criteria?
It has been clearly defined and it has been segregated into the central database also. What is the income of an individual is, and they have been categorized into the different categories of poor and vulnerable also. But if you see the Benazir income support programs data, that clearly identify that which person is to receive the government funding.
Right.
So we rely on the BISIP scorecards.
So those are the definitions that you rely on.
Those are the definitions which we follow, and we access the data and find out that which are the beneficiaries who are eligible for this fund.
Right,
so
sir.
This fund is given to those beneficiaries who fall into the poor and vulnerable population.
Right, sir, your point is noted, on which I'll come to you, Ms. Sam Dada, and here we must take your narrative into account as well. So when we do talk about ensuring that we do have equitable access and in terms of opportunities, everybody is given that equal chance so as to have their own businesses, their own startups. Do you not feel here, somebody who has been advocating for women's economic empowerment, that there is definitely a divide between the rural areas and between the urban population, where those who unfortunately do belong to the rural areas, they might perhaps complain that they do not have access so as to the right resources, so as to the right technology, so as to be able to have their own startups. So how would you view this very divisive issue?
Thank you you, Fatma, for taking me on such a serious cause. And I would like to mention here, when we divide these categories like rural areas and then urban areas, luckily, since women chambers are working a lot and Ministry of Commerce is taking a lot of interest, so definitely then regulatory bodies also come under the same umbrella. And when we talk about agri loans, then we need their NTN numbers, we need their NIC numbers. So having said that, when we talk about National Commission and the Punjab Commission at the same time, we are working a lot as far as data is concerned. However, there is still some kind of difficulties. That is the reason whenever we discuss about World Economic Forum and all those digits, we always categorized ourselves at the lowest number, like 146 or 145 number when we talk about gender equality. Because the reason is that data is not being provided to the international forums. Now the stakeholder bodies like chambers or other bodies like financial stakeholders, they're trying to get it connected with the international organization so we can portray our soft and better image to the Western world. And at the same time, we are working a lot on SDG goals, and we are working a lot specifically on SDG 8 and 5. And in these two particular areas, our rural women are working great things. There are few women who took loans, and from 1 acre they reach till 8 acres or 10 acres to land, and they are not only exporting aloe vera and olives, but also they are creating their livelihoods at the grassroots level. Here I would like to mention few organizations, and they are also working a lot in microfinancing. So these are small loans, but they address their immediate issues, and they are with the crop to crop. So this is my analysis about rural areas.
Right, Ms. Sam, your point is noted, on which I'll come to you, Samavia, and I would want you to respond to this further. So when we do talk about giving of women that access so as to be able to have their own businesses or their own startups, would you agree with what she said? Because there is, of course, that school of thought which very clearly states rural women in Pakistan, most of them might not even have access to the internet. So if they don't have that access to start off with, how can we even expect them to have their own startups or their businesses?
I disagree to some extent, because I believe that we live in a society where there's a general perception that women are not very able to use technology and IT per se. So that limits the access and also puts the women in general to disadvantage. And then coming forth to the women who are actually living in the rural areas, they, as I would say, they don't have the access, or they don't have that opportunity to be able to find out about these organizations as well. Because every time I interact with these women, and time I have any certain interaction, it is very evident that they don't know that certain organizations do exist to actually help them out through the process. So in that case, I think if there are certain workshops held, or if these organizations pay constant visits to those areas where there are majority women who want to access them, I think that would be more beneficial in that sense.
Right. So it's then again a combination of so many things, so as to improve their access. So you would want to comment on this further, because we do understand that your organization is also, of course, working towards ensuring that there is greater inclusion of women entrepreneurs too.
We ensure that the rural females are given the equal chance of the skill training also. The major studies has been carried out onto the rural females accessing to the technical and vocational training. The issue with the rural female is of mobility. The major issue is mobility. If you move the centers to the village, then it's not an issue. You will find out that the 100% classes are filled up and the 100% attendance is ensured. And we have also seen that the 100% females complete and certify those courses also. So we encourage the private sector to move the institute into the rural area specifically for the female.
So when we do talk about the other vulnerable groups, what is equally important to understand is also the fact in this regard we should give equal consideration to transgenders, to differently abled persons and other marginalized sectors of the Pakistani society.
I think we need to see all these groups separately, that how to treat these groups. As I have already told that the rural females actually has a mobility issue. If you see the people with disability, they need to have a specialized institute for the training and then provision of the loaning to them also. So what we did, that there are in the private sector, there are institutes which are catering for the only for the disabled. So we provide funding to those institutes that they should mobilize the persons with the disability and impart training in those institutes, and we fund those. If you talk about the transgender, the society, they live in area where they are closely knitted,
Right.
and they stay together. What need to be done is, first either we should move the institute towards that area where they are located and provide them training and link them to the funding for their entrepreneurship, or provide them a transport that they should move from those areas and come to the institute where they can get the training.
Right. So the mobility argument is something which would equally apply to
That's
transgenders
true.
too. Right,
That's
sir,
true.
your point
That's
is
true.
noted. On which I'll come to you, Ms. Sam, and here we must talk about the fact that when we do talk about, of course, ensuring that women are given that equal opportunity so as to have their own businesses, so as to have their own startups, this is definitely something which can also be used so as to then challenge the typical gender traditional roles or the gender stereotypes which do surround women and of their role in the society as it is. How precisely do you feel can we do just that?
Yes, of course. I think now things are being completely changed. Even in the remote areas, I have seen that even our men, our male champions, they are working a lot, and they do believe in gender inclusion. So the thing is, like, if we talk about livestock and if we talk about agri thing, our women are working a lot, and our male counterparts or companions, they are also giving the same kind of opportunities to them. At the same time, President of Pakistan and other major stakeholders, they are taking keen interest that women should come on the landscape and they should portray, like, if I'll give you a small example, like with the collateral, if you want to take loan from the state bank, women-led businesses, there the markup is 3.5 to 4%, as compared to the other, they are 25%. So this is the thing which policy making is creating a huge difference and making a huge difference, and it will, I think, leave a huge impact on the lives of the rural and the urban females entrepreneurs, whatever business they are doing, because women-led businesses are taking key position in the national economy.
Right, Sam. On which I'll come to you, Samavi, and here we must talk about the fact that when we do talk about ensuring that yes, people do have that access so as to have their own businesses, we also need to ensure that they have the right skills too. And skills, as we all know, have been changing very rapidly over a period of time because technology has also been changing very rapidly. So how can then people ensure, moreover, younger people ensure that yes, they are up to date, they are upskilled when it comes to ensuring that yes, they are very relevant for the market too?
Yes, I strongly agree that the skills nowadays are changing as they were. So I think schools and education system can play a very key role in this. So inclusion of such courses which makes them think creatively would be a very good factor in that, because the given information is already generated through technology. So they need to put in that extra edge or think outside the box to make them stand out. Then secondly, I think adaptability to the technology is very relevant and very important, because every day it's changing. You need to be able to access and maneuver over that technology very properly. And good communication skills, I think, is a very important factor in that sense, because if you're not able to express yourself or convey your idea or convey your business,
so basically then what you mean to say is that it should be an ideal combination of having the right soft skills as well as communication skills too. Sir, on which I'll come to you, we do understand the fact that a major part of your organization is also geared towards ensuring that people have the right skill set, and this is something that they carry with themselves through. So in this regard, how is it that you ensure that yes, people are continuously professionally developing themselves? What focus is placed on this area?
What we are trying is to actually put all the programs onto the computer so that people can access it remotely also, and then they can, if they want to improve their skills, they can access the internet and get the training from them also. So there are a number of programs which has been developed and which has been placed onto the on our website, where they can easily access it, and if they want to improve or they want to go into the other trades or a skill, so they can go there, complete the program, and then enter into the different labor market. So we are ensuring through provision of the training on the internet.
But moving on, another angle on which I would want you to delve upon is the fact that when we do talk about ensuring that yes, people have greater opportunities in terms of having their own businesses, being entrepreneurs in their own right, yes, this is something which is very welcome. But at the same time, do you not feel then that relying too much on having such technology-driven businesses, that comes with a downfall too?
I think we have to grasp the technology in the future also. So if you want to be business heavy and want to increase the access of the business, so I think a person has to continuously learn what's new is coming, otherwise we will be far behind the world. So this is a continuous process, and we support the people who want to continuously do the programs and the advanced program also.
But not at the expense of making labor force redundant, because that is of course a criticism which does come our way.
Candidly, we should not shy away from the technology. The technology is coming for sure. There is no second thought. The technology will be there, and there will be some people who will be redundant, and they have to be reskilled. So we need to see that where the people are becoming redundant, and if they are becoming redundant, then we need to work to provide them the reskilling also.
Right.
This phenomena is going on in the developing world also, and it will come to the third world country also.
To a great extent, it has already come.
It has already.
Right.
So I think we should not shy away from these kind of a thing. So
right.
And keep on continuously improving the skills and providing them the alternate skills, so that they should be not only beneficial to them also, but to the beneficial to the country and the society also.
Right, sir. On which I'll come to you, Ms. Salmon. Here we must take your perspective into account as well. When we do talk about having the right policies in place, how do you feel can policies in their own right promote female inclusion? Because that is of course another angle that we need to give due consideration to. Also, another thing that I would want to put to you, and I would want you to comment on this, is the fact that when we talk about having the right collaborations in place, how can we have the right collaborations in place, be it with terms of having the public and the private sector working in this regard together, or even for that matter, educational institutions doing their own bit?
Well, that's a very important question, and I think that when we see that there were different changes in the government policies, because before that, till the time you will not have your official address, you will not get certain relaxation in your businesses. But after COVID, there was a huge change in the whole landscape, because e-commerce and the digital literacy and digital marketing was taking boom, and not only in Pakistan but all over the world. I will here mention this thing again, because digital wallets and digital literacy is the key projects right now. And women in tech, we are working a lot. So I personally think that ensuring their businesses and taking them to certain extent is the only, I think, the solution, and it could be the way forward. And at the same time, our women are doing great when we try to create a kind of a platform, certain platforms. I will not take specific name, but there are so many platforms. They are giving the complete opportunity that you can display without having a shop or something like that, your work, and then you can get orders. And then banks are giving relaxation in taxation as well. So I guess that when we talk about freelancers and all these people, they are now, because I personally think that now everybody knows this thing very clearly, that visibility means a lot. So you are, till the time you are visible, your business is growing. So visibility is equal to your wealth. And these things have been understood very clearly by all kinds of women and the influencers from the corporate sector, and at the same time from the people who are doing this work. I completely understand that there should be some kind of suggestions. We always put those kind of white papers with the policy makers, because their implementation is something else that will become a part of the legislation that has to be done within the parliament. And the current political situation, everybody knows, it's quite unstable, so we cannot ensure anything. But yes, like you see this thing in the recent past, that we got this thing passed by the president and from the other stakeholders, that in every public listed company there must be a female director. So these kind of small steps will create a huge difference in the landscape of the women empowerment. And another thing is, when we talk about the policy making for the influencers, here I would like to say that there are so many things which we need to take in the consideration, because there is so many content is there which is without the consent. So there are certain things which we need to understand. Our people are still not understanding the power of social media. The digital reforms need to be mentioned and taken seriously. So these are the three different parts. Number one part will come under the entrepreneurship and the economic policies. Number second part comes under the constitution and of course how we can get benefit of all these things, not taking them in the wrong way. And the third thing is the implementation that will be done by the legislators. So all these three things are being taken care. However, it will take certain time.
On which I would want you to comment further, sir. When we do talk about ensuring substantive policy reform, what are the areas you feel that we need to focus on, be it in terms of, for that matter, increasing visibility of freelancers, be it in terms of, for that matter, increasing general inclusion of women or any other young entrepreneur?
I think the government should declare an emergency into the freelancing area. I think the future is in the freelancing.
Right, sir.
There will be not enough jobs for our youth. There are about the millions of youth is joining the labor force each year, and there is no jobs are available. The government need to declare an emergency that the students who is graduating from school, they have to go through the freelancing courses and into the digital courses also, so that after they have graduated from the institute, instead of looking for a job, they have the opportunity available with them to do the freelancing work. There's no doubt in it, the future is in the freelancing and into the digital era. The jobs will be scarce and they will be moving towards the digital space. So emergency need to be declared at the college level and the university level, so that the students are aware about these opportunities which will be in the future will be coming into the freelancing space, and they should be taught accordingly.
Right, to which I would want you to add to this further. So when we do talk about educational institutions facilitating young entrepreneurs, young students, be it freelancers, be it women, be it any other person for that matter, how is it that educational institutions can do that? Do you not feel that here very basic changes to the school curriculum, they could be made so as to generally promote this entrepreneurial mindset in children?
Yes, I feel that nowadays that we are living in such a changing world and the trends are changing, that such skills should not only be taught to business students or in business schools, but they should be taken to very basic level and basic schooling level as well.
Right.
Now, how can we do is that we need to ensure that there are certain syllabus or there are certain classes in the school curriculum that actually teach students about financial literacy. They could be given a small sum of money by their parents, maybe as a pocket money, and the school and the parents, they need to make sure that how the children could actually effectively utilize that money.
Right.
That will teach them a lot about the practical world. And secondly, they need to have right leadership skills as well.
True.
Now, that leadership skills does not only come from the group assignments and the projects they do to writing on the papers, but small activities to ensure, or small startup opportunities for them to ensure what a young child may want to do in future, and the correct guidance from the teachers will actually make them or give them that correct leadership skills that they require in the practical world today.
Right. And to add to this, another thing, if I may add, is the fact that I think alongside teaching them how to have those startups with limited resources, with the limited knowledge that they might perhaps have at school or college level, what is equally important is to add that element of environment sustainability to it too, because you see that adds more impact, that adds more power to any venture, so to speak, and this is something that we have seen happening in other parts of the world too, where businesses, where industries even are so cognizant the environmental damage that they are causing. So in this regard, considering that I do understand that you've been working on this area too, how can we then ensure that yes, the curriculum is modified, yes, people are taught to have that typical entrepreneurial mindset, but that too keeping in mind the environmental protection factors?
Of course, that also needs to be started at a very basic school level. There is a dire need now to have a separate syllabus or a separate course that actually teaches students about the impacts that are happening on the environment and how they can limit the effect, or how they could limit their negative impacts on the environment. The initial step would be to actually introduce a separate subject, so the children at school and university level are very much aware of the impacts their actions could make to the environment. Because now what I see, the trend is that all of a sudden, at any age or at any level, they are taken as a shock that, oh, this is something we actually need to bear in mind before starting a new business or before entering into any venture. So this would actually make it so embedded into their minds that they would already know that once we are starting up something, we need to be consciously aware of the negative impact which it might have in the environment. Now, when you see all around the world, the buildings, for example, which are being constructed are very eco-friendly. For example, they'd have solar panels, and other things could be just simply stopping the single use of plastic maybe, because when you travel outside Pakistan and you keep moving towards more developed nations, you see that you hardly see single-use plastic anywhere.
Or even reducing your waste for that matter, having sustainable supply chain, because that is where everything starts from.
So everything from your food to your fashion, nowadays there's a
of
big
course,
backlash
this whole concept of sustainable fashion,
brands, because they are not using that sustainability in their element. So that creates a very negative impact overall for the business as well, and for the I think nation as well. So
for the society at large too.
Exactly, because everything we talk about, all the opportunities can only exist if you have that sustainable environment in the end.
Right.
If that collapses, you will not have any of those factors. Actually, nothing would be beneficial like that.
Right.
So I think these measures could actually ensure that from the very start, all the entrepreneurs have it in their mind, in a very conscious mind and effort, that they need to take care of the environment now.
Right. To which I'll come to you, sir, and before we conclude today's show, we need to take care of our environment, something very rightly put by Samavia. So when it comes to ensuring that, yes, we do have the right businesses in place, run by competent entrepreneurs, what is it that people today need to do, young people, so to speak, such that they not only give positive outcomes for themselves, financially and otherwise too, but they also positively give back to the society too, because we do understand entrepreneurship itself can have a very deep impact on the society too.
They need to learn what entrepreneurship is. They basically are colleges and universities are not teaching what entrepreneurship is. So the people know this buzzword, but they actually don't know what entrepreneurship is. I think they should be compulsory syllabus. Otherwise, there are a number of courses are available online also. The people should learn the entrepreneurship, what an entrepreneur is, what capabilities an entrepreneur should have, and what an entrepreneur do. Secondly, I think it should be compulsory that the people who wish to become an entrepreneur, there are a number of courses are available on the website. Either PSDF also support a training program on financial literacy.
Right.
I think at the school level, at the college level, the people should start learning the financial literacy also, that how to manage our finances. Otherwise, an entrepreneur without a knowledge of how to manage the financials.
Sir, also the marketing, sir, is something so important. There are so many other skills too. And also, sir, the fact when we do talk about having all these businesses and startups in place, how these businesses in turn can actually help us combat so many other societal challenges, because we do at a very basic level understand that yes, if somebody is economically empowered by virtue of having their own business, the biggest thing that they are fighting against is poverty. So you see, this has a very deep intrinsic link with the society too, and this is something that people should be cognizant of. Coming towards you, Samavia, and before we conclude today's show, what role do you feel can media play in this regard when it comes to generally educating people, when it comes to empowering people? How is it that media can then equally prioritize and focus upon generally promoting a more entrepreneurial landscape in the country?
Yes, I think media can play a very vital role, because right now, as sir mentioned, so many programs which are running by the government. The other co-panelist also mentioned that there are certain organizations and initiatives which are actually empowering women to do that. But we need to also make sure that what is that accessibility to the people who actually are looking for those things.
Right.
And I think that is lacking in that sense, because we sitting at home or even working outside, we are not aware of the fact that these opportunities are actually being provided by the government. Whatever segment of the society they may be being provided to, I believe it is very essential for everybody to know, so you can even pinpoint and direct them
They
towards
need to be publicized more, they need to be advertised more.
And I think social media can play a very integral part in that, because all the segments of the society are on social media, and while scrolling down, while we see so many things, I think something like this would actually catch people's attention, where they know that something would actually make them earn more money by the comfort of their homes as well, and actually equip them to become better at becoming the earning hand in their family. Too.
And by that virtue, I also feel that there should be more success stories of such people which need to be published and publicized, that so there are more and more people who want to come forward, and they also want to financially empower themselves, more so when it comes to women who do belong to rural and remote areas of the country. Madam, coming towards you, if hypothetically speaking somebody does want to have their own business, they want to have their own startup, what advice would you give to people out there? Because a lot of times we see that yes, people do have the right ideas, but then they don't have that right infrastructure so as to execute the same. In this regard, what is it that has been done, and what is it that you propose needs to be done so as to generically strengthen the entrepreneurial landscape in the country?
Exactly. I think this is very important, and that's why we are working a lot on academia industrial linkages programs. And that's why we are not only making incubation center, but also accelerator center. You know what happened when you don't take recommendations from the industry and you just start giving syllabus, and when that young student or young child will come into the market, they have no idea what is happening. So here, what our Ministry of Commerce and other stakeholders did, that in every institute, in every prestigious university, and in every institution, there is incubation center. You need to complete your, and there are which have more than 74%, 75% success rate. So with that incubation center, you will learn how to, studying business is something else and doing business is completely something else. So these things are mandatory. And now skill development, we are working a lot on that, because I have seen a lot of people who are very educated, and I do believe in education, but till the time you are not skillful, you don't know your subject with the authority, how to do it, how to implement it, how to complete it, that is not sufficient in the today's world. So the skill development, we are working with TEVTA, we are working with so many other private, public. And again, the thing which you said earlier, I will again mention it and reinforce it, that public-private partnership is mandatory. Without that, none of the country, look at other countries, they all have done this thing. Without public-private partnership, only government, if you think that they can do it, it's not possible.
Madam, coming towards you, and my last question to you before I conclude today's show is the fact that we generally understand the fact that yes, we do need, greater innovation, we do need greater ideas so as to actually start off with new businesses, so as to have new entrepreneurs in Pakistan's landscape. But when it comes to executing the same, what is it that we need to have in place too? Do we need to have perhaps more comprehensive, more focused policies in this regard? Do we need to have better infrastructure facilities or development, or do you feel that in this regard more collaborative arrangements both between the private as well as the public sector, they are the way forward?
I personally think what is my experience is that the major thing is your idea. And when your idea is there, then there are certain investors. And now venture angels and investor angel, those things are really booming in the country. Right now, even I'm coming from the Arfa Tower and the women in STEM, there are so many investments. But the thing is, your idea should be sellable. If you have an idea, if you look at the small apps, they did not have money. They did not have that kind of qualification. The thing is, the idea is there, the app is there, people are getting benefit from there. So I think today's world, our kids need to understand what is required, and that the same principle, demand and supply principle, is same thing. It is still applicable in all kind of economic conditions in every time. So this is the basic principles. I think now our kids, they understood it. And when I see young startups, they come with the brilliant ideas, and their ideas are not only recognized by the country, but also at times the international investors, they take a lot of interest in that. Recently, there was a huge conference in Expo Lahore, and the whole thing was all about ideas. So you need to understand what you really want to do. And our kids know that, I think. And I think that the conventional studies and the conventional businesses, now the things are being changed and people are taking interest in the new and innovative ideas as well.
That's very rightly put by yourself, because when we do have brilliant ideas at one end, what is equally important to ensure, if you are serious about implementing the same, that we do have the proper policies in place, we do have the right infrastructure in place, and of course we do have the right collaborative arrangements in place so as to practically benefit from all these ideas. On which note I would like to conclude today's show. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Ms. Samavia, and thank you so much, Ms. Sam, for your precious time today.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for taking me.
Well, to conclude today's show, we generally spoke about how generally the very spirit of entrepreneurship has evolved in the Pakistani society. In this regard, we have seen more and more women entrepreneurs coming forward too. But generally, we do need to generally focus upon the fact that yes, we do have more, enabling policies to this effect too. Something that we also need to focus upon is the fact that yes, we do aim to improve our overall infrastructure so as to facilitate entrepreneurs. And last but not the least, something that we do need to focus upon is the fact that yes, we do have greater and more cohesive private and public partnerships in this regard too. Thank you for watching The Society. Until next time, take care and Allah Hafiz.